Hey everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success, and in our current climate, maximize safety while providing people with fresh food. Farmers markets are essential. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer or food maker selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast. On today's episode of Tent Talk, we're talking with JM Fortier, the market gardener, about growing farmers, maximizing markets, and his new venture, Growers & Co. Hey everyone, I'm one of your hosts, Bridget Myers. I've spent years as an on-site farmers market manager, and I'm the education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Kat Fields-White, Director of San Diego Markets, still an active farmers market manager, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and host of the Farmers Market Pros Community and Intense, the Farmers Market Conference.
And I'm Justine Marzoni-Mead, Tent Talk producer, marketing director for Farmers Market Pros, and logistics coordinator for Intense, the Farmers Market Conference 2021, which is coming up in just a few weeks, live online, March 15th through 18th.
Woohoo! Welcome back to Tent Talk, everyone. Today we are chatting with JM Fortier, the author of the international bestseller, The Market Gardener, creator of The Market Gardener's Masterclass, consultant, and now publisher. He's pretty much a legend in farm and market circles, and we are so excited to have him with us today. Welcome to Tent Talk, JM.
Welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
The magic of Zoom, right?
It is. It's really
That we can
cool.
all be together, even though we're far, far away. It just started raining here, which is sort of miraculous in San Diego and exciting. I'm imagining your weather is maybe even a little bit more intense.
It's under 0 Fahrenheit this afternoon.
Oh, no.
Ooh, Quebec's.
Yeah, we don't have the same kind of, the color of our skin gets a bit whitey.
Not leaving
That's
the
how
house
I
much.
am year
All the
round,
time?
and I'm from San Diego.
Even in San Diego.
That's right.
Alrighty, well, it's so nice to Zoom meet you. Could you just, I know that probably a lot of our listeners know your background, and we obviously do, but could you just give us a little background about how you got into farming and what led you to where you are today?
Yeah. Well, that was a while ago. When I graduated from university, I met my wife there, and that was more than 20 years ago, but I still remember it. And we were studying environmental science, and we wanted to somehow make a difference, and we definitely wanted to be part of the solution. And we were super well aware of the environmental crisis that we were, really learning about, and that it's really, unfortunately, still happening today. Climate change was big. We were studying climate change and the effects of that. And we just wanted to have a positive take on what we would do with our life. And, we did a trip. We went to Mexico. We worked on fair trade coffee farms. And that was really cool. Learned Spanish and spent a lot of days there and months there with the Paisinos. And then we went to New Mexico and we built earth chips. And with Michael Reynolds and learned about, autonomous houses built out of earth and solar panel and all of that. And it was really cool. And then we volunteered on a small organic farm. And we got to that farm because we went to the Santa Fe Farmers Market. It was the best thing. The Santa Fe Farmers Market was so amazing. It probably still is.
It still is, yeah.
And then the first person I've ever met with regards to farming, because I didn't grow up on a farm. I knew nothing about farming. My parents weren't hippies. We didn't eat organic, none of that. Never went to farmer's market before that time. And we met the farmer's market manager, and we went to her and said, we're looking for a farm to do our internship. And she said, oh, you should go to Richard. He's a French Canadian and you'll love him. And so she introduced us. And then that woman said to me, and I'll always remember that, the energy that's generated from people going to get their produce at farmers market and from the farmers getting there, that energy can heal the world. And my wife and I were super open-hearted we were looking for our way. So that really struck me. And then we met Richard and we spent the summer with him. He was really cool. We learned a lot, and we learned about the lifestyle. We learned about going to farmers market. We learned about growing crops. and we made friends, and we stayed there for 2 seasons, and it was just eye-opening, and that was Santa Fe was really cool. And then we came back to Quebec because our roots are here, and Maudelaine, my wife, she was pregnant, and we wanted to be closer to the family. And then none of what we had seen in Santa Fe was happening. It was really, it was a deadbeat. But we knew that this was coming, and this was the way to do things. And we just created it with others, but created 3 farmers market over my career. All of them are booming now, really happening. And we started in a teepee, farming a third of an acre. We lived there for two years, excluding the winters. We would travel. We went to Cuba and visited farms in the winter. But that's really farming with hand tools, really simple. That's how we started. And eventually we bought a rabbit barn, which became our house. And it was a 2-acre prairie, which we established our farmstead on. And our farm worked, and eventually I wrote a book about that, and then it's just like the story goes on and on.
Thanks,
and
Happy.
here we are today.
Yeah, that book is popular all over the world. When
Yeah.
no matter where I travel, I find copies of The Market Gardener in various languages, everywhere. So it's
cool.
been great. So you were involved with starting the 3 markets in your area, right? Yeah. And do you still participate in all 3 of those?
No, my wife goes to, the original farm, La Grelinette, which is the 2-acre homestead, is still run by my wife without me, because I started another farm project, which is where I train 10 apprentices that come for a 2-year stay. It's a pretty big farm. It's a pretty big project that I've created in 2015, FQT Farm Ferme Quatre Temps. And so
He says that's so much better than I would have.
so she still goes to the 2 farmers market that we created. And now I'm at Jean Talon Farmers Market in Montreal, which is really cool, really, really big market. We were there. There's probably 50 other vendors. And I go there with this farm.
So you go there with FQT.
Yeah.
Great. So your apprentices, are they learning to do markets as well as learning to farm?
Yeah.
That's great.
They learn how to manage crews. They learn how to crop plan. They learn, I'm really the coach, but they're doing the work. And the second year train the first year, and the first year they graduate to become second years, and then they get, so the 5 of them leave, 5 of them come anew, and that's how we roll. And I work closely with the second years, because on the second year they learn how to manage the whole crew. So they all have a role and responsibility. And so one person's in charge of organizing farmers markets and dealing with the farmers markets and all of that. And so she coordinates the rest of the crew when we're at market. Another person is in charge of nursery. So when we're doing nursery work, she runs the whole crew. She coordinates everyone. And when we do greenhouse work, it's somebody else that, manages the crew when they're working in the greenhouse. So this is how we get to have them practice, coordinating and managing crews and dealing with, people not getting along and overload with stress and making decisions and just all aspects of farming that are not just like learning how to, plant a bok choy into the ground. That's easy, but managing the complexity of all the moving parts, that's what I want to teach.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you do it as a holistic thing. That's kind of what our organization does. Is we don't pretend to teach people how to grow. EcoFarm does a great job of that, and you and the other farming conferences. But we try to remind people that growing isn't enough if you don't know how to sell it. You can't make a living with it. So the market aspect is so important. So FQT is funded by a philanthropic association. Is that still the case? I know that's how
that's
it started.
the case. Yeah. It's a very wealthy businessman from Canada, and I was introduced to him by Elliot Coleman, which pretty much all of my tricks I took from him, and he's been really a mentor for me. And he was doing consulting work for the owner of this farm, designing it, and he was very influenced by the Rockefellers that did the stone barns in upstate New York, and he wanted to do something like that for Canada and for Quebec. Elliot just introduced me to him, and we got along, and I just took over the project. And it was a very big project because there's cows that graze, there's hogs that are in the forest, there's a big commercial kitchen that kind of connects it to the project. There's, we do winter farming. So, and then I trained the 10 apprentices. So it's a really big holistic farm. And it took me 2 years to really get it going. And now this is our 6th year, and I think we're almost 20 working on the farm now. So
wow, that's a lot. Do the folks there, the farmers that you're growing, are they paying tuition, or do you pay them? Do they pay you?
No, they're paid. They're paid. They're paid. They work 9 months out of the year, 10 months. They work, 55 hours a week. They carry the load. They're paid. And that's great because we're teaching them to be real farmers that are learning how to groove when the waters are really hot and when it's, they're learning the real thing. And then they move on and they start their own projects. And then we've just kind of created a little community of people that have started project, and then we're all connected somehow. And the Masterclass, which is the online course that I teach, is also an off child of this, because when I started to manage this farm, it was much bigger than my 2-acre farm. And, I really needed to have standard operating procedures for everything that we did. So I just started to document that and film that, because I didn't want to always teach the new ones the same things all over and over. There's so many little variables that you need to kind of know. So we started to film that, document that, and eventually open it to a wider community of people that are not on the farm, but that still want to have the experience of all these little details. And that project also took on fire. There's more than 2,000 people in the Masterclass. It's in 65 countries, and it's pretty cool.
So farming is, obviously more of a full-time job than most jobs. How did you decide to add such a big education component to what you do?
Well, when I was on my home farm, I farmed there for 8 years full on. Like there was nothing else in my life except for making sure that this farm was happening. And eventually I just thought that what we were doing was really good and it was working, and it was comparing, we farmed without a tractor. We used a lot of permaculture principles to set up the farm, but we also used a lot of tricks and techniques that I had seen in Europe because I speak French. I would go to France a lot, visit growers there, see what they were doing. There's a lot of things that we were kind of taking from places that had been successful. Cuba, we visited farms there, and what we were doing was really working. And I just thought I should perhaps share some of it. And naively, I just thought I would write a book. I prepared everything so that I could take the full year off to write, which I did. And every day I would sit down and, write the book and write the chapters and make sure that it was clear. And it's all based on our experience, but it's also the way it's written. It's there for you to understand how to do things, but also why we do it and why it works. And that kind of just that, when you write, your ideas become focused and clearer. And then when the book was written and I started to, promote it and do workshops and present it, I just realized that there was such a big need for this kind of information, a primer on how to do things on a farm. And that just it's been kind of self-fueling ever since. Like there's a need for that right now. There's a lot of people that want to get into farming. There's a lot of farmers that are doing it, but that are improvising on many fronts. And when you have a proven methodology that works, it works. And so.
Yeah, the book is so well organized and so easy to get through. We have a number of our really young farmers or new farmers, not all of them chronologically young, but many of them that are sort of new to farming that have found it so valuable. And I am not a person who's probably going to ever be a farmer, but I read the book and am inspired that I could maybe do this if I needed to. So it's really very clear cut, and there's a lot of explanatory information in there in terms of you grow this because this sells well at market, and you grow this because this is something that people need, and you maybe don't grow so much of this because it's something that can be produced effectively and safely on a commodity level. So let's not mess with a lot of potatoes and things. So it's really a well-written book and really helpful. I know I've seen it in action. I've seen people start with that book and grow into successful small farmers at our farmers markets.
Yeah, and we're always so excited when we meet farmers that are super into farmers markets, because obviously that's our passion, and a lot of farmers haven't necessarily had good experiences at farmers markets or don't really see it as something that they want to do. So what...
Or they don't understand how
Yeah, they don't really get it. So what would
it.
be your sales pitch to a farmer that isn't maybe interested in farmers markets, or that isn't something that they've thought of before? How would you sell them on the idea of selling at a farmer's market?
Well, for me, farmer's market has always been, the connection with other growers. And it's also comparable. You kind of measure the quality of what you bring with the others. And that's something that's important, especially when you're learning or when you're, figuring this out, because there's a reason why this guy is growing amazing pak choi. It's not just chance. He knows what he's doing. And so, the benchmark to have other growers is that you can see what you're doing and then have an idea of if you're growing quality or if you're not. I've always thought that that's a great equalizer on many fronts. And then you meet people, and that's really important, because that's the difference between being an organic farmer, which you grow organic commodities that are sold through the organic, mega food chains or whatever. And a small scale organic grower, which you're just bringing your stuff to market, and you're selling something that's not just a commodity. You're selling a relationship. You're selling a presence. You're selling a way of a lifestyle, because going to farmers market is, for the people that go, and you guys know this, it's church. It's everything. Saturday morning or whatever. It's just taking your bread, taking your croissant, taking your cafe, taking your cheese, taking your veggies. It's just, this is how life needs to be lived. And so anyway, I think it's fun. If you don't like farmers market, perhaps you just kind of put somebody that does like it, and then
Exactly.
you do something else Saturday morning.
Yeah.
You play in your greenhouse, and then you leave somebody that's more of a people's person at the market. It doesn't matter. I've always said, you need to have somebody there. It doesn't need to be the grower, as long as it's always the same person and that person is involved on the farm.
Yeah, I do think that second part's important. We see people that hire people to represent their farms, and if it's somebody that's at the farm, that's terrific. But if it's somebody that they're just hiring because they're a good salesperson, not always so good. They will be stumped by those questions at some
always
point.
To look at the fingernails.
Right.
Fingernails.
Let me see your hands.
You're not just a skinny chef or a farmer with clean hands.
Can't trust them.
Can't be trusted. Let's talk a little bit, just briefly, about what your farmers markets in Montreal and Quebec have looked like during COVID-19. We've had, obviously, a lot of challenges here.
Yeah, so we're looking at what kind of protocols have been changed at the farmers markets there, what regulatory agencies set your market operation guidelines, and how have they been different during most of 2020.
Yeah, well, I'm involved with 3 of them. And the 3 have had different guidelines, which somehow is a little bit part of the problem. But
Yes,
us too. Yeah, we feel exactly the same way.
A lot of things are being totally improvised in the last year. But then again, that's okay. What we've seen a lot is limiting the number of people at the farmers market. Definitely, that's something. Then having 2 meters in the lineups, which creates mega long lineups.
Right.
And then having the plexiglass. This is something that was not mandatory on the one in Montreal at Jean Talon. So at Jean Talon, which is a big market, we decided...
Yeah, that's a huge kind of public market, right?
It's huge. And not everyone there's a farmer. And it's not very clear who's buying veggies and who's growing them, which which is not the case on our farm. It's very clear that we're the growers, and then we advertise it. But that's another subject.
Right.
But we decided at that market to really push it and to be kind of on the extra COVID proof, so that for some clients that was what they're looking for. So plexiglass, and then people they don't take the veggies. We put them in their bags or in bags, and then in the end we just add it up, and we don't take cash. We only take your cards. And we did that with the best intentions to be really safe, and then obviously we had masks and everything. But it was good in a way, because we felt that we did it the secure way, but it was so slow compared to what we're used to. And so we decided at one point that we would do boxes at farmers market, and then we opened an online store where people could order a few days prior, and then we would make the boxes, and then they would come and only pick it up, because the lines it was too long of a line. The lines were already big, and that was okay, but in the end it's just a lot more work on our end for the same amount of sales. So I don't know if I'm giving you the right answers, but
yeah, we're all asking this. I don't think anybody has the answers, and I think everybody involved in farmers markets anywhere has all these questions. What's working, what's not working. So, are you still doing online sales?
Well, now we're in the winter months, so
so you're off.
Yeah, we're off. We're going to start again in May. Good chance that we will keep on doing this. Actually, what that did to open the online store is it just allowed us to market at another time in the winter. Now we have emails, and then we can sell square cards, or we can do some marketing which we didn't do before. But we're actually trying to have this as another outlet, instead of having us at the farmers market and the kind of the CSA or the boxes. We're trying to separate them again, because for us, the farmers market, it needs to go. There needs to be a flow. There needs to be more people moving faster, and the boxes were actually creating congestion.
Interesting. But you have a robust CSA program as well, right?
Not on this farm.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Well, we have one, but it's kind of a special CSA. It's like 20 families that are funding the farm, and so we deliver to their homes. And
it's kind of a true CSA. I mean, the community supports the agriculture.
Well, it's an executive CSA, because it's very costly, and half of the yearly cost goes to just kind of funding the operations, the training program, and all. But they do get every week. They get meats from the farm, eggs. They get produce from the kitchen. They get veggies, and they get to choose. We have a little order sheet that they can order from, and then it's delivered to their home. But so that's a CSA, but we don't really count it as a CSA because it's very unique. But besides that, we were doing restaurants on Wednesday, and we were doing another farmers market on Thursday, and then we did Jean Talon on Saturday and Sunday, 2 full days. And there's 10 of us involved, so that means a lot of us selling at different points in time.
Right. Is Jean Talon open all year?
It is in the winter with perhaps a fourth of the vendors that are there. And Jean Talon is really amazing for anyone that comes to Montreal. It's really the place to go. But we started to go there because I knew that it was not fair nor square, the fact that it wasn't clear who was bringing veggies from the wholesale distributor and who was growing it, and I wanted to change that.
And were you able to affect some change there? I've heard that they've gotten better about just signage and identification, and there's still a mix of resellers and producers, but it's a little bit easier to see who's who.
Yeah, we did. I think the fact that, because the problem at Jean Talon was that in the previous rules, you needed to be there like 5 days a week. which
Yeah.
cuts off all the small growers because it's
Yeah.
not possible to have to A, the time, and B, the volumes.
Yeah.
And so we signed an agreement where we would be there for 5, and we actually went for 2, and we just kind of rubbed off. But there was such a big lineup that they couldn't close off because we were so popular.
Mhm.
And we started to be more vocal about the fact that we were real growers, and that kind of generated some tension. And then we kind of worked for 2 years with the farmers market managers. It was run by the city of Montreal, which was also a problem.
Sure.
And then just kind of working slowly to eventually having a third of the vendors be kicked out of the market last year.
Wow.
And it was a big,
Oh.
big story. And now we're kind of building on that. So to have more clarity and just to have it more open to smaller farmers instead of just vendors.
So the ones kicked out were those ones that were not being transparent about the
Yeah,
sources.
and they were there for like 30 years. They had been at the farm.
Wow.
So it was
Yeah.
there's all sorts of stories. They would sublet their there's all sorts of crazy
That's a
things
no-no.
happening. Yeah, and it was just like, so and it was in the Italian part of Montreal, and there's a lot of things that were not very kosher.
Yeah. Little Italy.
Yeah.
Our big market that we operate is actually in Little Italy in San Diego. So
We're familiar with
Yeah.
that.
Capiche.
Capiche. Fine line with the Italian.
So you've got a huge online education program at this point. Do you still do in-person training outside of FQT?
Not really. I'm really happy with the crew here. I really like it. We're not only doing this together and teaching them, but I'm also learning from them, with them. It's kind of every year is kind of an adventure. We start together and we finish together. And I really like this deeper relationship. And I was doing a lot of traveling, and actually COVID kind of
Sure.
created a real. I didn't want to do it, and I kept doing it because every time I would go to a presence, I do a workshop or whatever, I would see how people would really appreciate it. So it made me feel good about going. But every time I would go, I would lose a lot of energy. I would not be with my family. It was creating all sorts of unbalance with me. And for the last 3 years, I didn't want to do it, but I keep saying yes. And you'd say yes, and it's 6 months down the road, but when it's time to go, then it just
Yeah.
days. So anyway, COVID kind of solved that issue. Now I haven't been traveling for a full year, and I like it a lot. So for me to be online and I do some mini courses online. They're free. I invite people to them.
I'm taking one right now.
Yeah.
I've taken 1 and 2. I'm waiting
Yeah.
for number 3. Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about sales at farmers
That's
market.
right.
I
Yeah,
gave
it's
a
great.
few trips there, and I like doing it like that. And yeah, so
So you don't think you'll go back to the travel and the in-person stuff after COVID?
yeah, perhaps twice a year or something
Yeah.
like that. But
Sure.
I was doing
The
it once
intense
a month.
conference
Yeah.
and
Right.
whatnot.
Yeah.
You can be more selective now, though, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I was selective, and I was doing a lot when I was on the tour for like 5 years, and I was touring, and Joel Salatin was there, and there was always the same people that I would see all the time, and I would go to somebody like Joel Salatin, and they saying, okay, Joel, I just keep getting invitations. I don't want to do them anymore. And he'd say, just raise your price, JM, raise your price. And then I would raise my price and raise my price and raise my price. And it was just, there's no end. It was super expensive to invite me, and people would still do it. And that was at one point I was kind of doing it because the prices were high. And I was like, that's not why I want to do this anyway.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah, COVID's been funny. I was talking to another market manager in another area of the country this morning about all the things that we always wanted to do or not do that we couldn't stop because we've always done it this way. And then COVID made us stop.
Yeah.
And we've been so happy that we're not collecting fees in person, and we're
Yeah.
not doing all kinds of things that we always thought there was a better way, but just either never got to it or got so much resistance because people were used to one thing or another. People had to adapt and change during COVID, and it's actually been, a little bit of a blessing to shake everybody up and make them get out of their habits and look at, is there a better way to do some of these things?
Yeah.
For sure. For us, even on my home farm, where we've been taking cash for, 15 years, this year, my wife, she had no choice but to take Square Reader and take cards. And I think that was forced on her. And I see this as an improvement because in the end, there's a lot of people that want to pay with cards. And even if there's a fee, 1.5, whatever, it's worth it in the end. And I knew that from research and just kind of doing it here at the other farm. But for her, she had to be kind of forced to kind of do it that way. And, she had the biggest year ever at farmers market by far.
We've found that actually too, that a lot of farmers have seen increases in sales this year because even though we have to limit the number of people who come to the market, the ones that are coming are the grocery buyers. They're not there to, you can't eat at the market anymore, so they're not there to, get a ice cream and take a selfie. They're there to get their groceries. Have you had that same experience up there?
Oh yeah, and all the growers that I talked to, it's been record years for CSA and for farmers market, and it's just, if you were dealing with restaurants, unfortunately, your eggs were in the wrong basket. But for the rest, it was there's a lot of people also that open stores,
right?
And then online stores, and it's exciting. It's an exciting time to be a small scale organic grower, and I just feel that finally we're really growing the pie, which for all these years that I was going to farming conferences and people were like, oh no, don't bring JM. He's going to attract more people into farming. We don't want that,
And we do.
But we do. And it's not about limiting the number of farmers. It's about growing the pie. There's a lot of people out there who want to eat and don't know about this. And I've always knew that, but now it's really true.
I mean, it's really, when you look at it, the percentage of people that do the majority of their grocery shopping at farmers markets is still so tiny. But part of it's because it's almost like it's a secret. I was just going through this huge stack of books because we're getting ready for our conference, and I'm looking at people that are writing about food systems, and they're writing about cooking, and they're writing about how you feed people, and nobody's talking about farmers markets. It's so rare, even for somebody deeply into the food system, to be talking about farmers markets. It absolutely makes my head explode. And we need more farmers so that we can also expand the story and expand the number of people.
And it's funny, what you're saying is really interesting, because for me, like, we can talk about food systems on a very intellectual level and have heavy thinkers that propose things, but for me it's like the experience of just being there.
Yeah.
Like, and being a gourmet person that just likes food and is just kind of like living the experience of this relationship and meeting other people. And that's, what more? This is it. This is the high level. This is exactly, and it's just about multiplying this experience for more people, or just having more farmers market that are very genuine, and just like, there's not much more than that, in my opinion. This is the pinnacle of life.
The fact that you're expanding the number of farmers, that alone, if I wasn't just kind of a fangirl of farmers who write books, that would do it for me. People that are bringing more farmers.
Well, speaking of bringing more farmers market shoppers and more farmers to markets, I think that one of your newest projects that you're working on will definitely do that. Can you tell us a little bit about your new beautiful magazine, Growers & Co., which we have in front of us? And I flipped through it earlier, and it is just absolutely gorgeous, whether you read it or not, or you just look at the pictures or like feel the pages.
It's like a book.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm really proud about it. And I just, all my heart is into this. Like, I've had a story where here in Quebec, I've become somewhat of a celebrity because I had a TV show, and it was on public television every Thursday, 8:00. And it was, they were filming us and my crew doing what we do. It was kind of real life things, and there weren't any dramas, but there was highs and lows, and there was us going to farmers market in the morning and preparing at 4:00. And it was just all this reality of being a farmer. And it's just, the show became so popular. It was unbelievable. You would have ads of us on the bus stops and everything in Montreal, but it was in French. So a lot of people from, in the States or in Canada, English Canada, didn't see that show. But what it showed me was like, if you present farming in a very positive and with a good message and the nice visuals, because a farm is really nice, it attracts a lot of people to the mission.
It looks so glamorous.
Yes.
In the magazine.
Yeah, and that was the idea, is like to create an object. So it's not in a digital format. It's not available. It's only available by paper, and it's published twice a year. And it's stories of people that are farming differently and or have a story to share. And it's not about it's not about the exactly how you're doing things. I don't really care. I've been this is what I do with my other projects, but this is about the why. Why are you doing this? Cheyenne Sundance, you might
Right.
read
Yeah,
about
we love her.
She's 23 and she's beautiful and she's all about social justice and in Toronto, and just stories like that, but that are told in a story that's positive with beautiful pictures, and it's an inspiration for people or for growers in our community. It's just like, it's motivating them. Yes, okay, people are doing it. It's working. I'm alone on my farm. I'm struggling. It's not always easy, but I feel proud of being in that community. And that's really what I wanted to do with the magazine.
And that's great. I've been saying for ages, we're totally missing an opportunity. It used to be you didn't want your daughter to marry a chef. That was kind of a blue collar sort of down and dirty job. There's nothing cool about that. And now chefs are celebrities. They're so glamorous. And why is there not a top farmer show? Why we need to make farmers sexier. If people get a glimpse, they love it.
This magazine does such a good job of kind of capturing, I don't want to say this trend, but there is this kind of like homesteading. And I recently just got really into sewing, and there's this whole kind of like back to doing these things with your hands and creating crafts, and people are really into quilts now, and kind of this like slower, like cabin porn type of like
we're home more.
Yeah. And so I think that not that it feels trendy or flash in the pan, but it really captured this new kind of like interest in these old ways of doing things, and really getting your hands dirty and enjoying the process of it and getting into the beauty of it.
The agrarian lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right.
And for me, and you can take my word on that, like the whole concept is to present it as very sexy, and I think it is, but it has substance.
Right.
Exactly.
It's not just image, and it's something that the stories are really interesting, and these people are really cool for real, and what they're doing is not shallow or fake, or it's just like, these are hardcore people that are doing cool stuff, and it looks good and it feels good and it is good, and for me that's what we want.
Yeah, they have a deep purpose. They're serving a purpose. They're being of service, like to the land and to community, and so it's a real thing that's happening. That's what farming is.
And it's still just really attractive.
And
so
it's
it's not like a bling kind of attractive. It's really authentically beautiful. It's what's going on there. Honestly, I was in publishing long ago before I was in farmers markets, and the quality of the magazine is just truly lovely. I don't know how you decided on this paper size, and I'm hoping it's not costing you an arm and a leg, but it's such a lovely thing to hold.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for saying this, because we decided that the paper size would be off size, but when you would open it, it would have a nice feel to it.
It does, yeah.
It's like the dimensions of like a child's book, or
it's almost like the dimensions of a picture
you can
book.
really look at the pictures.
Yes.
And at one point, there's obviously, when you're running a magazine, there's costs to it, but the magazine is also, it's part of a bigger brand. Growers & Co. is doing farmware, apparels, it's doing tools. We're doing clothing for growers that are in the field. We're doing hats. I'm designing so many products to make the life of people in the fields better, and also when they're off the field, so that they look good, they feel good, and they're proud. And that kind of will or can pay for the quality of the magazine.
Yeah, I had that question. I mean, I was a restaurant owner and then went into publishing, and then we were in construction, so people were like, whoa, are you just seriously attracted to ventures that don't make money or that are really, really high risk? And, I would imagine farming gets slid into that same pool. So I'm curious about the magazine. Are you planning, is it supposed to be self-supporting, or is it more of a marketing vehicle for the other things that you do? Do you expect it to be, strictly subscription-based or more newsstand, advertising supported?
It's advertising supporting. There's 5 or 6 advertisers per magazine. We try to make it discreet, and they finance some articles that I'll write or that I'll command. It's supposed to be a standalone thing that would work financially, but obviously it's also a way to get people to know the brand and perhaps look at the tools or the apparels that we make.
Right, that makes a little more sense to me, to think that there is some marketing vehicle aspect of it as well when you're doing other products.
Yeah.
So it's on all level, and like anybody that's starting something anew. When I wrote my book, when I built my house, when I started the big farm, I didn't know what I was getting into. So I still don't know what I've got myself into, but I like the idea of figuring it out. And I think I have somewhat of the resources and the capacity, especially with regards to knowing people and attracting people to such project. Like the people that are with me on this projects are high quality videographers, high quality people, writers. There's just and they want to work with me. So I'm trying to attract as many bright-minded people to this cause, and I'm just hoping that God is going to take care of it and it's going to work or whatever, but I'm putting my energy, but I want it to work, and I hope it will.
Yeah, and you certainly got kind of a head start because of the platform that you have, and because you're already known, and people trust you. I mean, you've become very well known, and you've been around for a while. But when they look at each thing that you're doing, they can see it's being done with integrity. You're doing a good job at it, so they're willing to say, "Yeah, I'm going to spend $20 and buy this lovely magazine because I know there's going to be quality there." That's based on what you've established as your reputation.
Very similar with the way people are at farmers markets when they're buying vegetables from the farmer that they know, and they've had their stuff season after season, and they know that there's care and love and quality in it.
Yeah. I like how you pulled that right around back to integrity.
All ties together. So where can people get the magazine, since we're talking about it? Is it on newsstands there where you are? Is it a subscription that they can get it twice a year? Or?
They go on the website growers.co.
Okay.
And the magazine's there. The farmware is there. It's really cool. And the new collection is coming out in April with the second edition of Growers. It's going to be in April. And then there's going to be, you can subscribe on the second edition, and there's going to be a possibility to subscribe for a year or two.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like our listeners would really connect with it.
All the support people can give is really appreciated at this time. Like whenever we're starting anything new, a new farmers market or whatever, it's just like it needs traction at first, and I certainly hope that I'll get it. But you were talking about integrity earlier on, and for me, being at farmers market all these years, or working with chefs personally or whatever, it's been always about creating something that is real. And now, I was imagining something where we would have, a clothing line that was also real, transparent. And I think we're going to see this in many industries where people don't want to really buy from big brands. They want to buy something that has a genuine feel, and people of value doing it for the right reasons behind it. And I think that's really the future on many levels, is to bring it back to integrity and to understand that what you buy really is a choice. It's pretty easy to say, but it's true. And to have people be more conscious of what they purchase and the impact that it has, and then to gear those people into having options to purchase things that they care about,
Yeah, exactly.
And I believe in that a lot.
Yeah.
Connecting your purchasing power and your values, I think, is something that's been on trend for a while. And now, even with this crazy year, I think people are just taking stock of what's important to them and using that when they buy things, and looking for small companies, looking for people who are doing it right, and just making that more conscious decision with their buying power, I think. So, I think that's all connected. Farmers markets, and with all the projects that you have going on, and anyone who's running a small business and doing something, from their heart, that's where customers want to give their money and support to, is places like that. So,
and I think that farmers market, in many ways, we're proving this for the last 30 years. And that was before e-com. It was obvious to anyone that's paying attention that, okay, people really appreciate the intention, the integrity, the relationship, the experience, and which you don't get, in a supermarket or something like that.
Or buying online from a gigantic company who shall remain nameless.
Grocery delivery.
So for me, like farmers market have played a real big, in my mind at least, it played a big role into reconnecting people together. I don't know how it is in San Diego, but where I am, not that many people go to church anymore, and so there's not that many opportunities to connect on weekends, with a crowd.
We actually had, Troy Johnson from San Diego Magazine actually wrote an article a year or two ago that said it's church. That's what the farmers market is. It's church.
It's our community.
That's where we see our community. That's where we reconnect with the land through real food. And, it's important. It's a ritual for people. We were closed just briefly when COVID started and the state didn't quite know what to do with a market that had typically attracted tens of thousands of people on a Saturday morning, and how to manage that safely. And so we were closed for a couple of weeks while we figured that out and kind of shifted back down to our core grocery purpose. And I think the comment that all of us hear over and over and over from people is, thank you. This is a little slice of normalcy in everything that's gone on this year. This is still real. We're still seeing our community. We're still together.
We're a mega church.
Yeah, we're a mega church here.
It's super fun to be kind of geeking on this subject with other people that also, because for me, this is my life, and I this is everything that I do is all based because of farmers market, because of the energy, because of the proudness of just bringing quality vegetables there, because the support of people through the years. I started this conversation saying that we lived in a teepee, and we would go to farmers market. We would sell for $300, $400, and that was really important for us. That was our livelihood. Now it's much more, obviously, but the families that, there's families that have been with us for like 17 years. And we know the name of their kids and they know the name of ours. And it's such a great way to be a part of the community. And that's the kind of passion that I try to transpose or share, the market gardener or the small scale farming lifestyle is about being in a community and being of service. And anyway, I like this part a lot.
Yeah. It is. It's
For
the best.
sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yes.
Hey, guys, thank you for doing this. Farmers market for me has been everything. That's how everything happened. And so that you guys are not just doing a farmer's market, but kind of organizing everyone around the subject is really cool. So
Thanks.
Really happy to be with you guys on this.
Good. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so
We'll
much.
talk to you again soon.
Talk to you.
Thanks,
All
JM.
right. Bye, JM. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Farmers markets are all about community, and all of us, operators, farmers, and vendors, keep learning. To learn what's happening from people just like you in various parts of the country, or share what's happening in your area, we have terrific conversations and people sharing resources over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. Please find us there, answer the 3 qualifying questions, and join the group. You can also message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros, or send us an email at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. Thanks so much for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you access your podcasts, and tell us and others how you're enjoying Tent Talk. If you're listening on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss our next episode. Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is proudly produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead. Thank you so much for listening today, and we'll have another great episode next week. Tune in.